"I am having a baby with someone else," she announced after her girls' trip. I stood silent as she packed her bags. But when I came home from work the next day, my apartment was empty and my dog was gone. When her vacation boyfriend's wife called me, everything changed. I keep checking my phone, hoping this was all some sick joke, and she will text me saying she is coming home. But it has been 3 days now, and I am finally accepting this nightmare is my reality. I am Ethan 31M. And until last week, I thought I had the perfect life with Madison 29F. We met in college 8 years ago, moved in together after graduation, and have been building our life together ever since. Last Christmas, I proposed after saving for 2 years to buy her dream ring. She cried, said yes, and we started planning our wedding for next spring. 3 months ago, we found out she was pregnant, unplanned, but we were thrilled. We have been turning our second bedroom into a nursery, picking out names, the whole 9 yards. She is 16 weeks along now. Madison planned a last girls' trip with her friends to Turks and Caicos before she would be too pregnant to travel comfortably. I encouraged it, told her to enjoy this time with her friends before we became parents. I even drove her to the airport, kissed her goodbye, and told her I loved her. That was 2 weeks ago. When she came back, something was different. She barely hugged me at the airport, was on her phone constantly, and kept finding reasons to sleep on the couch instead of our bed. Whenever I asked what was wrong, she would say she was processing things or needed space. 3 days ago, she sat me down and told me she needed a break from our relationship. I was confused. We are engaged, having a baby, been together for 8 years, and now she needs a break. She said the trip had given her clarity and she needed to find herself before becoming a wife and mother. I asked if there was someone else. She denied it at first, got defensive, then finally admitted she had connected with someone at the resort. A personal trainer named Blake. She swore it was just emotional at first, but then admitted they slept together multiple times during her trip. I couldn't process what I was hearing. What about our baby, our wedding, our entire life together? She had the audacity to tell me she wasn't sure the baby would be happy with parents who weren't truly compatible. 8 years and now we are not compatible. Right after she meets some random guy at a resort, I asked if she was leaving me for him. She said she needed time to figure things out, but that he made her feel alive and free in ways I apparently never had. The next day, I came home from work to find a note saying she was staying with her friend Amber for a while to clear her head. Yesterday, she texted asking if I could pack up some of her clothes so Amber could pick them up. I did, because apparently I am still an idiot who does what she asks. Today, Amber came by to get Madison's things, and let it slip that Madison and Blake are officially together now, and he is flying in this weekend. Blake lives in Florida. We live in Ohio. She is planning to show him around our city. The city where we built our life together, where her child will be born. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I can barely sleep. I keep replaying our last normal day together before her trip, trying to see if I missed some sign. Was she already planning this? Was our whole relationship just killing time until someone better came along? My brother Connor 32M is a detective and says I need to document everything in case there are custody issues later. He is right, but I cannot think that far ahead. Right now, I am just trying not to fall apart completely. I don't even know what I am asking here. I guess I just needed to put this somewhere. Has anyone else had their entire life implode in less than a week? How do you even start to pick up the pieces? Update 1 first. Thank you to everyone who reached out with advice and support on my original post. Your comments helped me feel less crazy during the worst week of my life. I had planned to update sooner, but my internet was shut off. More on that later, and I have been dealing with police reports and credit freezes instead of sleeping. After my last post, I took everyone's advice and began documenting everything. I started a journal of all interactions with Madison, backed up our text conversations, and reached out to a family law attorney. I was determined to handle this maturely for the sake of our child, despite the betrayal. I went to work on Monday, focusing on something I could control. My boss has been incredibly understanding, letting me take calls from the office instead of traveling to client sites like I usually do. Around 2 p.m., I got a text from our downstairs neighbor asking if we were moving, confused. I called her immediately. There is a moving truck outside, and I saw Madison and some guy carrying out furniture," she said. I left work immediately, calling Madison repeatedly on the way home, straight to voicemail every time. The 30-minute drive felt like hours. By the time I pulled up to our apartment complex, the moving truck was gone. I ran upstairs, hands shaking so badly I could barely get my key in the door. What I found inside turned my shock into pure rage. The apartment was half empty. She had taken all the furniture we had bought together: the couch, the dining table, the television, even the shower curtains. But that wasn't what broke me. She went through the apartment methodically, taking everything personal and irreplaceable: my grandparents' wedding photo, my grandfather's watch, my diplomas and awards, and the childhood photo albums my mom had preserved before she died. She even took my birth certificate, social security card, and the first Father's Day card I bought for myself after learning she was pregnant. Somehow, she found the engagement ring, ID, hidden in my nightstand. But the worst of all, she took Cooper, my dog, who'd been with me long before her. Overwhelmed by the emptiness around me, I sank down on the floor of our half-empty bedroom and called my brother Connor. When he arrived 20 minutes later, he found me still sitting in the same spot, surrounded by empty drawers I would frantically pulled out while searching for my things. "This isn't just a breakup," Connor said gravely, as he walked through the apartment taking photos of everything. "This is calculated. She is punishing you." Once I could finally think clearly enough to assess the full extent of the damage, I discovered even more violations. Not content with just taking my personal items, she had also canceled our internet service, withdrawn $5,400 from our joint savings account, and maxed out our joint credit card on furniture deliveries to her new address. To top it all off, she had taken both my car keys, including the spare, and my car was nowhere to be found in the parking lot. Yes, I have 2 cars. The methodical nature of her actions made it clear that this wasn't an impulsive decision, but rather a carefully orchestrated plan to hurt me as deeply as possible. Connor immediately helped me file a police report for the theft of my personal documents, family heirlooms, and my car. Because we were engaged but not married, and because many items were clearly my personal property from before our relationship, the officer classified it as theft rather than a civil dispute. I called Madison's parents, with whom I have always had a good relationship, her mother answered, sounding uncomfortable. She admitted Madison had shown up with some young man and many boxes, but claimed not to know about my personal items. She promised to speak with Madison and have her return my things, especially the family heirlooms and documents. 2 hours later, Madison finally called. I put her on speaker so Connor could witness. "You are making a scene," were her first words. No apology, no explanation. "Where are my things?" "Madison, my documents, my grandparents, belongings, my dog." "I didn't take anything that wasn't partly mine," she said, her voice cold in a way I had never heard before. "We built this life together, and I am entitled to half. My grandfather's watch, my diplomas, my birth certificate, those were mine before I ever met you. Maybe you should have thought about that before, forcing me to leave. I lost it then. Forcing you to leave. You cheated on me while pregnant with my child and left me for another man. I needed to find myself before becoming a mother, and you made me feel guilty for that. You are being selfish and not considering my needs. I am growing a human being." Connor took the phone at that point because I was shaking too hard to speak. He calmly informed her that theft of personal documents and family heirlooms exceeding certain values constitutes felony theft in our state, and that the police report had already been filed. "If Ethan's belongings aren't returned within 48 hours, we will be pursuing criminal charges," he said. "And we both know how a felony charge would impact a custody hearing." She hung up on him. I spent that night at Connor's place, canceling credit cards, freezing my credit, and getting emergency replacement documents started. I barely slept, wondering how someone I loved for 8 years could transform into such a cruel stranger. The next morning, my car was parked back in its spot at the apartment, keys in the mailbox, but nothing else was returned. Through mutual friends, I learned that Blake had moved into a rental house with Madison. Apparently, he quit his job at the resort and decided Ohio was suddenly his dream location. The same friends mentioned that Madison has been telling people I was controlling and emotionally abusive, which is why she had to leave suddenly. The thought of her painting me as an abuser while carrying my child makes me physically ill. I have scheduled an emergency hearing for temporary custody arrangements once the baby is born, and my lawyer is filing for return of property. I have also had to take out a loan to afford a new place to live, since Madison emptied our savings. I know everyone says I dodged a bullet by not marrying her, but right now it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I have lost everything. My fiancé, my home, my child's intact family, and even the physical items that connected me to my past. The hardest part is knowing that in a few months, my first child will be born into this mess. How do I protect them from a mother capable of such calculated cruelty? Update 2. I have been hesitant to post because things have been developing rapidly, and honestly, my emotions have been all over the place. I am writing this from my new apartment. It is smaller than our old place, but it is mine, and Madison doesn't have keys to it. First, thank you to everyone who reached out with support, advice, and even offers of help. The kindness of strangers has been one of the few bright spots in this nightmare. I will start with the biggest development. Blake dumped Madison a week after they moved in together. I didn't find this out from Madison, but from her friend Amber, who reached out to me saying she couldn't stay silent anymore after seeing what Madison did. According to Amber, Blake wasn't exactly the dream man Madison portrayed him as. He has a history of hooking up with tourists at the resort, and apparently has a wife in Florida he conveniently never mentioned. When his wife started blowing up his phone after discovering his sudden move to Ohio, he took off in the middle of the night with most of Madison's remaining cash. Amber also revealed something that made my blood boil. Madison had been planning her exit for months. The last girls' trip was specifically chosen as an opportunity to meet someone else. She had told her friends she was feeling trapped by the pregnancy and engagement, and wanted to explore her options before the baby came. The theft of my belongings wasn't impulsive. She had compiled a list of things to take that would hurt me most. I should have told you sooner, Amber said. But she has been my friend since high school, and I kept hoping she would come to her senses. 2 days after Blake left, Madison's mother called me. She was crying, saying Madison was a mess and asking if I would consider talking to her. I agreed to a conversation strictly about returning my belongings and future co-parenting arrangements. Nothing else. Madison showed up at Connor's place, where I was staying at the time, looking nothing like the confident woman who left me. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she kept rubbing her baby bump nervously. "Blake's gone," she said as soon as I opened the door. "He had a wife. He used me." I just stood there, feeling nothing but a dull ache where my heart used to be. "I am sorry that happened to you," I said finally. "No one deserves to be deceived." The irony of my statement hung in the air between us. "I have made a terrible mistake, Ethan," she whispered. "I was scared about becoming a mother, about being tied down so young. I panicked, and that panic made you steal my dead grandfather's watch, my childhood photos, my dog." She flinched. I was angry. "You seemed so fine about me leaving, like you didn't even fight for me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You told me you found someone else who made you feel alive. You were pregnant with my child and sleeping with another man within days of leaving. What exactly was I supposed to fight for?" The conversation deteriorated from there. She swung between tearful apologies and bitter accusations, claiming I had been emotionally unavailable and too focused on work. Complaints I had never heard once during our 8 years together. When I pointed this out, she said she didn't want to hurt my feelings by bringing up her dissatisfaction earlier. Finally, I cut to the chase. I need my personal belongings back. All of them, especially the irreplaceable items and my documents they are. Not all still available, she admitted, looking at the floor. Apparently, in her anger, she had thrown some things away, including, she claimed, my grandparents' wedding photo. My grandfather's watch was missing after Blake left. My dog Cooper was staying with her parents because her new place didn't allow pets. I walked away from her and called Connor into the room, needing his support as my anger threatened to overwhelm me. With remarkable composure, he took out his phone and began recording, while I methodically listed every precious item she had stolen, questioning her about each one's current location. As we worked through this painful inventory, a clearer picture emerged of the aftermath of her vindictiveness. To my immediate relief, My birth certificate and social security card were actually in her purse, which she reluctantly handed over on the spot. She then explained that my diplomas had been taken to her parents' house for safekeeping, though I couldn't imagine why they needed to be kept safe from their rightful owner. My heart sank further when she admitted that my childhood photos, irreplaceable memories of my late mother, had been scattered carelessly between her new place and the garbage, with many permanently destroyed in her rage. The engagement ring, which had represented so many hopes and dreams just weeks ago, had been coldly converted to cash at a local pawn shop. She handed me the receipt with a detached air that made the betrayal cut even deeper. When asked about my grandfather's watch, the family heirloom I treasured most, she averted her eyes and murmured that it was truly missing, a vague answer that suggested either callous disregard or deliberate deception. The only genuine comfort in this devastating inventory came from learning that Cooper, my loyal companion, was at least safe at her parents' house rather than abandoned or given away to strangers. Throughout this excruciating process, Connor's steady presence beside me was all that kept me from falling apart completely as I confronted the methodical dismantling of my personal history. Connor informed her that we would be going to her parents' house immediately to retrieve the remaining items, and that we expected her to compensate me for the items that were lost or damaged, particularly the irreplaceable family heirlooms. If you refuse, he said, the theft charges will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. She agreed, looking defeated. At her parents' house, her father pulled me aside while Madison and her mother gathered my belongings. I am ashamed of what my daughter has done, he said quietly. Her mother and I raised her better than this. We don't recognize the person she has become. I could see the genuine pain in his eyes. These were people I had thought would be my in-laws, who had welcomed me into family holidays for years. The baby will need all of us to be civil, I replied. I don't want them growing up in a war zone. He nodded, then pressed something into my hand. A check for $10,000. This will not replace what has been lost, but it might help you restart, he said. Don't thank me. It is coming from Madison's trust fund. Actions have consequences. I recovered most of my belongings that day, including Cooper, who practically knocked me over with excitement. Madison's parents promised to keep looking for the missing items, and to ensure Madison took responsibility for her actions. The legal side of things has progressed as well. My lawyer has filed for joint custody with a detailed parenting plan. Madison is now 21 weeks pregnant, and we have scheduled a paternity test immediately after birth. Though conception timing makes it virtually certain I am the father. The hearing for the property issues is next month, but with the documentation Connor helped me compile, my lawyer is confident about the outcome. Madison has been texting me daily, alternating between apologies, nostalgic memories of our relationship, and practical questions about the baby. I answer only the questions about the baby, keeping all communication documented and strictly co-parenting focused as my lawyer advised. Through mutual friends, I have heard Madison has been telling people she is fighting to save her family and that she made one mistake that I am unfairly punishing her for. She has apparently painted herself as the pregnant woman abandoned by her cruel fiancé, completely rewriting the history of what actually happened. The most surprising development came yesterday, when my company's HR department called to inform me that Madison had contacted them claiming I was creating a hostile environment by turning coworkers against her. I don't work with Madison. She has never even been to my office. When I explained the actual situation, they were sympathetic and documented her call in case she escalates with false accusations. I am not going to lie. There are moments when I remember the Madison I thought I knew, the woman I wanted to marry and raise children with, and the grief hits me all over again. But those moments are becoming less frequent as I see who she truly is through her actions. My focus now is on preparing for my child's arrival and creating a stable, loving environment on my side of their life. I have started putting together a nursery in my new apartment, and I have joined a support group for single fathers. The question I keep coming back to isn't how could she do this anymore. It is how do I make sure my child is protected from the emotional manipulation I failed to see for 8 years. I will update again after the property hearing, and as we get closer to the baby's birth. Thank you all for your support during the darkest period of my life. Final update first, the most important news. I am the proud father of a beautiful, healthy 6-month-old daughter named Lily. She has my eyes, Madison's nose, and a personality that is entirely her own. The first time I held her in the hospital, nothing else mattered. Not the betrayal, the theft, the months of legal battles. She was perfect. And I knew immediately I would do anything to give her the stable life she deserves. As for the legal issues, the property dispute was settled in my favor. Madison was ordered to pay restitution for the items she couldn't return, including my grandfather's watch, which was eventually found in a local pawn shop, and the damaged photos. Her parents actually covered most of this payment, which I have put into a college fund for Lily. We have a formal co-parenting arrangement with joint legal custody. Lily lives primarily with me, with Madison having her 3 days a week. This wasn't my preference initially. I worried about splitting an infant's time, but Madison's unstable housing and employment situation made this the most sensible arrangement for now. Speaking of employment, 6 weeks after my last update, I was offered a promotion to regional director, which came with a significant salary increase. The timing couldn't have been better as I was preparing for Lily's arrival. I was able to buy a small house in a good school district, giving Lily a permanent home with a yard where Cooper can run around. Madison's situation has been more complicated. After Blake left, she cycled through several living arrangements, eventually moving back with her parents. When the theft charges became public record, her company let her go, citing their morality clause. She is now working part-time at her friend's boutique while taking online classes to finish her degree. Her parents have been surprisingly wonderful grandparents to Lily. They visit often, always respectful of boundaries, and have made it clear they don't condone what their daughter did. Madison's father pulled me aside at Lily's christening and said, "You are the father I always hoped my daughter would choose. I am sorry it worked out this way, but I am grateful you are in our granddaughter's life. As for Madison and me, we are civil." It has taken extensive therapy and several co-parenting classes, court-mandated for both of us to reach this point. We communicate primarily through a parenting app that documents everything, and exchanges happen at a neutral location. She has apologized multiple times for what she did, and while I have accepted her apologies, the trust can never be rebuilt. Looking back on everything that happened, I have realized something unexpected. Madison leaving was actually the best thing that could have happened to me. Not because of the pain or chaos, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but because it forced me to confront hard truths about our relationship. For years, I had ignored glaring red flags, mistaking mere complacency for genuine compatibility. I was so fixated on hitting traditional life milestones that I never questioned if we were truly right for each other. Without even realizing it, I had been carrying Madison emotionally throughout our relationship, shouldering an unbalanced burden that would have eventually crushed me completely. If she hadn't left when she did, I would have married her. We would have raised our daughter in a household with hidden resentments and fundamental incompatibilities. Instead, Lily will grow up seeing her father in a genuinely happy, respectful relationship. She will learn that love shouldn't require constant sacrifice or walking on eggshells. Madison's pregnancy panic and affair exposed her character in a way that might have taken decades to surface otherwise. While the way she left was unforgivably cruel, it gave me the chance to rebuild my life authentically before I was legally tied to her forever. I still have moments of anger about the way things happened. Finding the ripped fragments of my childhood photos still makes my chest tight. Sometimes, when I drop Lily off with Madison, I catch myself wondering how someone I trusted completely could have betrayed me so thoroughly. But then I come home to a house that is truly mine, to a relationship based on mutual respect rather than dependency, and to a life that I have rebuilt on my own terms. And I realize that while Madison took my past when she cleaned out our apartment, she inadvertently gave me a better future than I ever could have had with her. This will be my final update. Lily is waking up from her nap, and we are meeting Sarah at the park. That is where my focus belongs now. Not on the past, but on the family I am building from the ashes of what was lost.